Good morning all, my name is James Mutimer. I'm with George Galloways Workers' Party, so I thought I'd come here today and introduce myself to all of you and tell you what we're about. So essentially I joined the party in February because I was sick and tired of watching my mobile phone and seeing women and children being slaughtered in Gaza, and I was getting angry at myself because what can I do? And then I saw the opportunity with the Workers' Party to join and actually try and make a difference. So I've come to do this in Brent because alongside the problems that are happening in Gaza, there are systematic problems here as well. And I feel that it's going to take someone like me from a party like ours to actually make a difference. So what we basically stand for is to stop funding foreign wars, stop funding the murdering of innocent women and children all over the world, and use that money and put it back into the community. We need safer streets because policing has really deteriorated due to lack of funding, and you can see it throughout London, but Brent especially. The crime rates, I think April last year, it was the worst for drug crime in London. That's insane, and that needs to change. And that's not going to change unless we actually fund the police properly, train them properly. And what we would like to do is have community-led policing, so community leaders talking with the police, helping them out in certain areas and dealing with troublesome convicts basically, or troubled offenders, and actually trying to help them rather than just punishing them through the system. So that's one thing that we would really like to do. The other thing is social housing. It's become a complete joke. Is rife corruption throughout the council when it comes to social housing, and it's another reason why there is no money to spend here. Again, that has to stop. The only people that have got richer over the last decade in Brent are the property developers and councillors. That has to change. We really need to put that money back here where people really need it. So one thing we would like to do is use more innovative methods to build. So rather than knocking up huge tower blocks which are an eyesore and usually radiate crime around them just because of poor living conditions, we want to use innovative methods to build quicker, more efficiently. So if you look in the Netherlands and Germany, for example, they use prefabricated shells, and you can knock them up very quickly. They're really efficient energy-wise, they're very safe, and the structures are brilliant. So we want to do things like this, make it quicker, cheaper, and actually get that glut of social housing that we currently have moving, and obviously house people properly. Education is a massive one, and everyone that I've spoken to in Brent East when I've been out canvassing have all moaned and really complained about the education standards. One thing I feel is the fact that these schools are being turned into academies is really hindering the progress of education. So essentially what is happening is schools, state schools, are being sold off to, they call them charitable trusts, but essentially they are just private companies. But these private companies still receive funding from local government without the oversight from local government because they manage themselves, so they make their own curriculum and they basically have a blank check to do whatever they want within that school. And I think that has to stop. We need to be a lot more rigid with the education that we have and that we give to our children, and obviously have that local government oversight of these schools. So, the last thing I'd like to say is healthcare. I think that is so obviously broken that we really need to pump money back into that and really help the NHS, help the nurses, help the doctors, rather than demonising them. And you see it all over mainstream media of junior doctors striking, nurses are striking, doctors are striking. Well, why are they striking? They're striking because they're not funded properly, they're in horrific working conditions, and they're expected to just do miracles day after day. And I feel that, yeah, we really need to change that.
Just a quick question for you, James. Does the party look and plan, if elected, to stop the outsourcing of NHS services? Because I believe that is what is draining most of the money from the NHS, and essentially outsourcing is self-privatisation. Where does the party stand on that?
Yeah, so we stand against all privatisation of the NHS. One thing that we would really like to do is get the pharmaceutical companies back into check, because what's basically happening is we are putting contracts out to tender to pharmaceutical companies, and they're really draining resources from the NHS. So you see a similar model in China, what they do, where they basically completely control all the pricing that comes from pharmaceutical companies, just so you can't get ripped off like you do in America, where people get charged $200 for a paracetamol. We really need to bring that back into check and make sure that that funding that is going into the NHS is spent efficiently. And again, that can only happen in a public service where we have full control over all procurement and over all services, basically.
Thank you.
So any other questions? No? So for what I'd like to say about Brent East, I've noticed, like, I walked through the park this morning and the grass is knee high.
Yes.
There's shuttered shops all over the place.
It's not under the park, the whole estate.
Well, exactly. And again, it's just lack of funding and really poor governance. Labour have been in for well over a decade and things have just deteriorated. And I know the argument that you will hear from Labour is, yeah, but we're going to get back into government now, we're going to control central spending. But Keir Starmer's already said on video that he isn't going to end austerity. So you're going to get exactly the same end product at the end of the day. And Dawn Butler's been here a long time, she's a very familiar face, but what's she done? Exactly. So I think it needs a fresh face. And I'm not from here, I've been in London a few years, but I think it takes someone with a fresh perspective and a fresh set of eyes and actually the enthusiasm to want to change things, to actually make things better here. And that's why I'm standing, and that's why I do really want to make a change.
When you said about education and schools, now even the state schools are closing down.
Yeah.
What are you going to do about it? Because my kids, they go to school where on 2027 it will be closed.
Okay.
And the kids, they have to either go different school or transfer for the other branch.
So what was the reasoning behind the closing of the schools, the one given?
They said no fund, the birth data is dropping down, but it's not, that's not, it should be.
Yeah, well, I think the question, the answer to that question is quite simple, and it's very similar to all the other problems that we have in this area. It's funding.
We tried and
Yeah.
called the council, we tried to speak to them because now I've been going to that school for 8 years. My second child, she is finishing this year, but still I have another 3.
Yeah.
2027, my third one will graduate, but I still have 2. So
Yeah.
me as a mother, I have to struggle now.
Yeah. But this is the thing, it's funding. And what we have to do is make sure that the actual money that is coming from the council is spent properly. And the only way that is going to happen is if you get a new set of faces in there that aren't as corrupt and aren't as unwilling to spend money where it's actually needed.
Yes.
And I'm completely against the closing of schools. Essentially, smaller class sizes are something that we have in our manifesto that we want to achieve, and that is only achievable by keeping schools open. If you continue to close schools and push them all into big new academies, because the central government here wants to make every single school an academy by 2030, all that's going to do is push so many kids into these schools. It's going to increase the class sizing, it's going to put more pressure on teachers, the standard of teaching is going to go down, and we're going to end up with an even worse education system. So the solution to that is to put more money into schools, keeping schools open, and making sure those class sizes are small as well, because a teacher that's teaching 40 kids is nowhere near as effective than a teacher that's teaching 20, for example. And that's what we really need to push towards, is getting that down, getting that class size down and increasing funding, yeah.
James, before we take any more questions, I'd like to hear from Nadia as well.
Yeah.
So Nadia, please.
Do you want to stand up?
So I'd like you to explain yourself and what you're about.
I'm standing as a candidate for Brent West, so that includes Sudbury Hill, Alperton, Wembley Hill, Park, Central, Kenton, Preston Road, Tobington and Bun Hill. So those areas. That area also falls under Brent Council, and as you've heard from James, there's a lot of problems with Brent Council. One of the minor issues which I don't like is the phone options. You spend half the day on the phone to Brent Council, press 1 for this, press 2 for that, press 3 for this, press 4 for this, and then at the end of it,
Down the phone of you.
so this is what's happened to me.
Exactly.
I was helping my neighbor, who her daughter's got Down syndrome, and the child had 2 years old, had open heart surgery, and they need financial help. They need their disability benefit to help her out. And the mother came to me in tears. She said, listen, I'd give my life if I could change the way my daughter is, but I can't. The situation is what it is. And I had to spend the whole day on the phone with her. Press 1 for this, press 2 for that, press 3, fine. I pressed all the options that I thought were related to the issue. And at the end of the day, I got someone answering me back saying, no, it's the wrong number. Didn't even refer me to the next number, just close the phone.
The
Now-
advisors in Brent, they are rude. And I'm saying that because I work in a charity.
Right.
You will spend on the phone with one person for one issue more than an hour and a half, and then they will talk to you like you are nothing.
Well, this is it. We're
You
not
are
we're not
nothing.
cows with a tag and a barcode in our ear. You know, we're human beings. You have to talk to people. And for me, this is what's made me angry, and that's now I'm standing. I'm standing in my local area. I'm born and bred in Kenton. I'm from Brent West. My mom's from Sudbury Hill. I had enough. You know, it's okay to promote this ward, that ward, this ward. Spend some money on the council, spend some money on the emergency services, spend some money on the hospitals.
One
You
more
know.
thing, the advisors.
Sorry, Sterling.
No, just a quick question, Nadia. We're talking about the councils. We've already talked about the outsourcing of the NHS, and we've talked about academies. James mentioned academies, which is in itself is a form of outsourcing, which is self-privatisation. I do feel from the research I've done that there's an awful lot of council facilities and council agencies that are just outsourced to private companies. If you think back 20 years ago, we didn't have as many potholes because the council did all the potholes themselves, and they had all the equipment, they had all the best materials. Now we outsource it. A lot of the times the potholes are done with the cheapest material because it's a private company
And then it
that
comes out
doesn't
in
last
1
more
year.
than 6 months,
Yeah.
and then we've got holes again,
Yeah.
and we are paying as taxpayers extortionate amounts of money. As a party, if elected into government, will you look to address that issue as well?
Absolutely, everything has to be how it was, regulated well, and the right materials used. Bring everything in house again. Bring back regulation, government regulation. Yes, it can be a pain in the backside for some, but it's the right way. If you want to ensure high quality services and roads and infrastructure for your people, you know, because if it's bad quality, it's more expensive as well. You
Yes.
throw more tax money because you just keep going. It won't fix the issue.
No.
Hospitals. You see, you have to keep businesses away from certain services, like hospitals, like education, like politics. If you mix business and money with these things, then you're not going to achieve the result of educating the children in the right way or curing the patient. You're going to be thinking, how many swabs did I use on this patient? Oh, is it against protocol and procedure? Oh, I can't use so many, I have to use so much. And that's the thing, you're not curing the patient anymore. You're not educating the child, you know. I've heard so many complaints about kids from the parents. My kids are being bullied, I've complained to the teachers, they're in an academy, the teachers don't want to log the problem because they don't want the academy to look so bad. Now I'm sorry, that's not right. That's not right. When there's an issue, you can't just put the issue underneath the carpet. Sooner enough that mountain's gonna grow.
How about the social service?
Social services, what do you mean, like the foster caring and...
I mean the department as a social service, adults and children.
They need help.
They need help.
They need help.
That social service itself needs a fund.
Yeah.
Because there is so many disabled people hasn't got no social workers.
Yeah.
You will contact them, they will tell you to refer. Okay, we will refer. It will take years and years for them to bring one worker. It will be with you for 2 weeks and go.
I tell you why, it's going in a vicious circle because all the staff there as well and the emergency services, their salaries are not enough as well.
Yes.
So what that does to everyone working as well, it demotivates them
Yes.
because you've got your rent, your bills, your gas, your electricity, you've got so many bills, your salary is not so much, and you're forced to be an A-star person in your job. No, how can you? You've got so much stresses on your mind.
But
It's common sense, right?
Some of them are rude as well.
Yeah.
They will come treat you as a criminal.
Yeah.
But that comes down to lack of training, and I think you see this in every public service. If there's no decent training there, the standard and the service that is provided is
They
poor.
go to the level, they will ask a mother, how did you meet your husband? Or how did you meet your partner? What is that to do with the case that I have been referred to?
Yeah.
The way they're talking to you, like you are really nothing, you are, I don't want
Not
to
like you're a civilized human being.
Yes, not simple. Like, how did you meet him? I met him from the air.
Yeah.
She's
No,
not
it's
going to
right.
take that one as an answer.
No, that's not right.
But at the same time, they're not treating the issue. You will be, at the end of that, all that answer and all that investigation, they will leave you with nothing.
Yeah.
So why did you come into my life just only to take my details to ask me a personal question that really, really irritates any human being,
Yeah.
and they will leave you with nothing. That's it.
Yeah.
We'll go with case closed.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you have that issue on your name under your name for a year, for
4
example.
years, yeah. And
Yeah.
if me as an individual, I call the social service or an authority,
Yeah.
they won't take my voice as a human being. Only authority can call them on me, but I can't call it on the authority, like the schools or anything. If anything happened to my child and I call the social service or contact them,
Yeah.
they won't do anything.
Yeah. It needs to be looked into. There needs to be empathy on both. There needs to be empathy on both sides. Yeah.
So we've touched on social services, healthcare, policing, and the general state of the area. Is there anything else that any of you would like to add or ask? Or
I feel like I'm not talking at all because sometimes like you'll come here now and make all these promises and then afterwards just the same like the people who were here before.
the
Can I
only thing
answer this? I'm no one. I've got no corporations backing me. The money that I use to make the leaflets is from my savings, the money I save for my children, but I'm using it for myself. So I've got no agenda. So of course you've got to think that because of the experiences you've had for the last so many decades. But this is who I am. You know, I'm trying my luck. I'm hoping as a country we can change. But I need people like you to try and give us a chance.
But
It's up to you.
I think you've summed up the tone of the country, to be honest. I think everyone's fed up, and the amount of people that you speak to in the street just go, I don't want to vote, I've got no interest. They're all the same, which is true, they are, but we're a new party, no one knows about us, but that's what the message we're trying to get across is we're trying to be different, we're trying to break that uni-party that we call it system.
I feel like when there's going to be voting, everybody come around and they make all these promises to us, and once they've got the voting, you don't see nobody here for the next 4 years.
God willing, we're not going to be like those people.
Nadia? I just want to add to that, when you look at Labour and Conservative, right, they are financed and backed by large corporations and big business, right? If I'm in your house, for argument's sake, and I'm paying 2/3 of your rent, okay, I have a say what you do. Because I'm paying your rent, I'm keeping you there, okay? So when these big businesses back Labour and Conservatives, their priority is not you. Their priority is the people that's giving them the money. So yes, they'll come here and make promises, but if it doesn't meet with their donors and their backers, they're not going to deliver on it, okay? The Workers' Party are not backed by big business or donors, okay? They're backed by members who pay the fees to be a member of the party, and they're backed by the GoFundMe that they're organising to help people, you know, to get people, to donate, okay? So we're not backed by anyone but the public. So if we get elected, we will answer to the public. On top of that, you have to realise that you've had Tony Blair as a Labour government, you've had Conservatives in between and after, okay? If you elect another Labour government, you are going to have something very similar to Tony Blair. And what did Tony Blair do? Took us to war, okay? Do you want war with Russia? If the answer is yes, go and vote Labour, okay? If you want your kids to be at home and safe, if you want your areas to improve, if you want the councils to come back the way they were, and all the privatisation to stop of the NHS, the schools, the councils, etc., then you need to be voting George Galloway's Workers' Party. Because let's face it, they can't do any worse than the current crop. So give them a fair crack of the whip. James?
Yeah.
Nadia?
Are they going to stop LGB, something like that, across? I don't know.
No, we have to accept everyone is free to love who they want to love in this country. But the teaching of children in primary schools, this is where we have to draw a line, because 18 years minus 1 day is a child, and you have to understand that. In primary schools, from the research that I've made, it's too young to expose children to this education, and it's confusing. What I found out is that there is a reason for this, and it's from pharmaceutical companies. It's to, yeah, so some children have been made confused on this issue. And, you know, they're going through a process which, yeah. So I believe this subject shouldn't be taught to young schools, kids.
Yeah. So that's why our heart is broken down.
Yeah.
So especially our children. So he can be a boy, a girl, a boy or man. He can be.
No, this is
So
my.
that's why we want to stop. I don't like to hear about that.
Yeah.
No sex education should be taught to any
Yes.
primary school child,
Yes.
Regardless of what type of
Yes,
sex
we
education
have to have a manners for our children.
Yeah.
In Islam is haram everything for that is situation. But yes, you can if you want it. No one will stop you.
Yeah.
But our children, we don't want it.
Just to interject, because it is a party stance from us that we do not want to focus a lot of attention on this issue, because it is intentionally planted there to be divisive, and this is what the Labour government before and the Tory government have done for the last 2 decades, is just divide, and they use it with contentious issues
No.
that turn people on each other, and what we want to do is focus on the key issues that we actually have. Go on, sorry.
Do you have an option to opt out?
Sorry?
Do you want to opt out as parents that they don't learn this?
We can't hear you, brother.
So there's no sexual education.
So I said, can we not have
Schools are
an
not
option
allowed.
whereby we as parents can opt out of our children learning this?
But you have to write a letter, and they won't notify you if they do it. You have to manually write a letter straight away when your child rolls on into the primary school. I tell them, please, I don't allow my child to have sexual education at a certain age.
Yeah.
And I think the legal requirement, I'm not sure, is now 9 years or 11 years. I might have to ask the officer in the badge. Do you know what the legal age is?
Around a nursery, they were saying. Sister, do you know about legal?
No, schools have changed it.
We don't know about that.
So, for example, when I was growing up, when I was 11 years old, then they taught us
No, but
basics.
Yeah, now they said it's up to the head teachers. So some schools, the head teacher will say go ahead so they can go ahead from there, from move forward.
Yeah.
But before that, yes, there is some kind of stories that are telling you 2 dads, 2 moms. But it's simply, we're asking of leave our children alone
Yeah.
until they become the age they will choose what they want. I'm not against LGBT community,
Yeah.
but I don't want my kids to be choose anything to do with sex until
5, 6
13
years old, for
age.
example. Yeah.
So leave them alone.
Yeah.
This puts the importance into keeping schools under state governance, and the fact that they're wanting to move them all to academies in Brent by 2030, that takes the curriculum out of government hands, of local government hands. So all that curriculum is going to be done by the charitable trust that is in charge. That's why it's so important to stop these schools being taken out of local government, local council hands.
Yeah. You know, another thing just came into my mind, right? You know, before, you know, if a person's doing homeschooling, right, he was getting funded. But they've taken that away now, so good, you know.
There was funding for homeschooling.
Yeah, before there was.
How much?
I don't know, but there was. But, you know, if someone's doing homeschooling before,
Yeah.
you know, they was getting funded by the government.
It's
now it's
basically our rule of thumb. Keep businesses away from the education sector. Keep them away from the healthcare sector. These things should not be profit based. You cannot mix money with these things because the education sector, it exists to educate the children, not to make money, not to benefit financially from this. You know, they're losing their eye off the ball. You know, the aim is to educate kids. The healthcare system is to cure the patient, not to save money for an insurance company, healthcare insurance company. It's not about that. So that's the reason.
So just to clarify, what you're trying to say is that basically you feel, as I do, that Conservative and Labour current governments and previous governments have essentially prioritised profit and private companies over education, healthcare, and general, you know, utilities, infrastructure, basic infrastructure that's needed in the country.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why you shouldn't vote for Labour or Conservative.
No, absolutely.
And the other thing with Labour as well is they look like they're offering a lot of promise, and that's because the last decade has been horrific. But they're showing the colours where they're refusing to remove the 2-child benefit cap. In Brent, 1 in 3 children are in child poverty. If you took that cap away, it would lift thousands of children out of poverty. But no, they won't. They'll just carry on sending weapons to Ukraine and Israel and putting the money there, but they won't do it to actually help the people here. That's what they stand for, and we are trying to change that. It's very simple stuff.
Well, social housing, how will we help with
We're
social
overcrowded and
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said earlier, we have to do it in ways where we cut out the corruption that is currently in social housing, where we're paying private companies thousands of pounds a month for small rooms in overcrowded buildings,
Filled with mold.
filled with mould,
Yeah,
no
yeah.
electricity, ridden with cockroaches
Yeah.
and whatever else. And we... Oh, sorry.
Me personally, I live in 2-bedroom with 5 kids.
I live in a 1-bedroom with 5 kids.
If I call them and say I'm overcrowded, they told me your daughter who is 13 years old, she counts as one what? She's not even, they call it a name, 1 liter or one whatever it is, as if she's not a human being. But I can use my sitting room as a bedroom. Okay, where shall I sit down and socialize with my kids? If I book my
You
sitting,
can't.
yeah.
The question, that's the answer. You can't. How
No,
can
it's
you?
disgraceful.
It is disgraceful.
So
And
shall
5 kids in 1 bedroom. No.
I asked them, shall we eat on top of our beds?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there is no way that I could eat on top of my, my bed, and that's my bedroom, my kitchen, and my daughter, or 2 of them, they have to share the and the other 2, they have to share the sitting room. Where we supposed?
Sister, are you living here?
Yeah, I live in
May I ask you, Penny, can I come and see you afterwards?
Yes.
Is that okay? Because this is incredible.
It just shows that we need systematic change here. We need to overhaul
I was
so
in
much.
Charlotte and I've seen so many people who
Yeah.
really lives worse than me.
And they're
Worse
also
than my
selling-
situation. At least my bedrooms are, are quite big. But I've seen people, as he said, 1 bedroom, 5 kids, mom and dad. I've seen 8 people in 2 bedrooms. Nobody wants to notice anything about them.
Did you write an email to your to Dawn Butler?
Most of the referral goes to Promise Nines.
Yeah. So because they
So
have
send
their
them-
own email
Selling
address.
them out of Brent as well.
So,
Right, okay.
so there is the head of, I think,
Right.
the member of the Right Honourable of the Conservative Party, who they're the head of the housing.
It's Promise Nines.
You have to put him in the email and put Dawn Butler, their actual Parliament email. It will be their first name dot surname with at Parliament.
We did,
You
but
did
the
that.
problem is unless they become a homeless,
Yeah.
nobody will do anything. Locata will be there, but there is no property whatsoever to be advertised. Disabled people has been removed from London to High Wycombe.
Yeah.
A family with a language barrier, they newly arrived into UK, they just had their PRP thing. They become homeless because Home Office doesn't want to take a responsibility. Removed into High Wycombe.
Nadia, just quickly, on that note, on the housing note, didn't George Galloway announce, I think it was last week or earlier this week, that if elected into government, he's going to build 1 million new homes, council homes, not housing associations.
Not apartments.
Not apartment, council homes, which is what... See, at the moment, the Conservatives are doing what Labour started under Tony Blair. So what they do for social housing, they don't give any money hardly at all to the council.
Yes.
They prioritise it to housing associations. So basically, the housing association will build 100 flats. They'll make 20 of them for social housing and sell the rest as affordable housing around about 300, 400, 500,000. That is not affordable housing in reality, okay? It might be affordable housing for Tony Blair or, Rishi Sunak or even, Keir Starmer, but for us, it's not affordable housing. We need it to be council homes. And George has said, if elected, immediately he's going to build 1 million council homes.
Those flats next to Wembley Stadium,
Yeah.
4 years ago, they gave it to people who was on the waiting list. It turns into as a housing association, but the rent, it's not affordable
Unaffordable.
whatsoever. is nearly £2,000.
Yeah.
Council tax is quite high. Those people who they gave them, they are all low-income families, single mothers who works as a carer. So how could they afford the rent?
So how can they work? Yeah.
You have to be
Yeah, common
limited
sense, yeah.
your time, so you can't work more than 24 hours.
You know, the sick thing, see, I can't do anything because I'm just a candidate now, but the sick thing which I've seen when I'm walking in Wembley Park, I see all these beautiful apartments. The land I walk on is privatized. I tried to canvass there, the security guard said, no, you have to move along. And I said, listen, it's my legal right. It's a snap general election. Democratic right. No, but this land is privatized and they don't want you here. Oh. What does that tell you?
I just want to add as well, because Labour's plan for building new homes, they're saying that they want to build it on green belts, but that green belt's in the countryside, where people in metropolitan areas do not want to move out to the countryside, away from all the family, all the friends. So what we need to do is build them here, and this is part of the George wanted to build 1 million homes. We need to look at ways to do it that actually work, so reappropriating old commercial buildings, old industrial estates, and completely rebuilding them and making them suitable, and I mean decent housing, not rooms where 5 people live.
Where will you get the money from?
Well, this will be funded by the stopping of funding foreign wars. It will be by renationalising key assets, for example, energy, water, so on. I think our government expenditure is 1.2 trillion. If you privatised all the nationalised all the energy companies in the UK, you'd receive nearly £600 billion in profit annually. That's half of your government expenditure right there. These are our natural resources. Why are private companies benefiting from our natural resources? You look at countries like Saudi Arabia, it's all state-owned. It's one of the richest countries on the planet because they use their own natural resources and they actually put the money back into
And they're
their own
state-owned by
economy.
their own countries.
Exactly.
Like EDF is French state-owned.
Yeah, and we need to get back to that. These things were sold off, but why? No one's profited from them apart from shareholders. Energy bills have gone through the roof because of this. We need to change that. I'm sorry, you were going to ask a question a while ago.
So back to the housing now. Right, so say if that's going to power grid all the time and whatnot. Now, look at my situation probably because well, I'm Band Aid, right? And I've been Band Aid for a while now. But if you're lucky, a property, 3-bed, will come up maybe once in 2 months. Now, when I look at that, I have to either be disabled, which is the first category, or have another category, and then afterwards I can do it. Plus, I work. Now, my job requires me to have a van. All these new bills are now, you can't have a car or any kind of transport. So where does that leave me? Now, I told them at Brent Council, they were like, oh, yeah, but you just have to wait. That doesn't help me.
It's a car free. It's a car free.
All these car-free developments, and I can't move.
Yeah. In my own case, to be honest, the housing is becoming really worse. I'm moving house. I've got almost before Section 21, and they said to me the landlord was taking his house back. And by look at the since 2006 up to now, I'm just waiting house. And I submit the medical forms and medical reports in June. Up to now, I'm just calling every week. I'm just saying I need the outcome for medical officer because you have to get them and the outcome, whether they accept it or whether they don't accept it. Even to my child I've got a child with a special needs. He's entitled for sort of room. But they're saying to me, oh wait, we haven't had anything. And I'm just moving house. I'm just waiting by only the day they're taking out his house and I'm becoming homeless.
Oh, you mean the district?
Yeah.
The council, even if you submit your medical report,
Yeah.
they have their own district medical team. That district medical team can decline your medical needs
Yeah.
or accept it.
Do you have the email address of this?
I can run through so many cases, and you can see.
And the caseworker, I'm talking to my own caseworker that I used to have there. When I talked last week, I said, I'm just giving you since the next week because 7th of June, up to now, I'm just waiting the outcome. I said, I'll wait till next week. If I don't get the next week the outcome, then I'll go to the legal advice to see what's going on. And yesterday I've got an email, someone saying, oh, I'm new housing officer. In few minutes later, I've got another email saying to me, oh, accepting my apology, and it was an error. It's confusing.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, is even if it gets sorted, all that stress that you've been through, that you've been put through, is so
You
unnecessary.
don't know where to go.
I can try and help write an email to this association that denied your report, your medical report.
Yeah.
If we can talk afterwards, and I can, yeah, is that okay?
Yeah, but
So
the
at least I
problem
can try and see the right MP
Mhm.
and introduce myself as a candidate for the Workers' Party and say, hey, look what you're doing to your own constituents. So at least that pushes them and make them a little bit of shame, I hope.
Yeah.
See, you know, the thing is, right, you know, they don't have funds, right? So whenever, you know, someone comes, right, they try, you know, their best not to give, you know, save money, right? So, you know, that's what our party, you know, wants, right? We want to stop all these wars, right? We want to spend the money on the people, right? You got people, you know, on the streets, homeless, right? You know, we need to worry about them, right? You know, that's why, you know, we've come here. You know, if you guys support us, right? You know, we'll support you. You know, we'll try to, you know, solve all these problems. You know, all these housing problems, all these, you know, healthcare problems. So, you know.
I've got one question. So, as a young Muslim, obviously we live in quite a majority Muslim community. One of the biggest issues we have is there's a lot of Islamophobic cases within the area. MPs like Barry Gardner have failed to call it out time and time again. Rather, he's turned the tables on issues of Islamophobia. Now, obviously, Nadia, I know you're standing in Barry's ward.
Yeah. He's no friend of Palestine, he's no friend of Muslims.
But what is the party going to do to make sure that Islamophobia is highlighted
Yeah.
and there's a policy change about issues of Islamophobia and how they're treated within all the institutions?
It has to be punished. As simple as that.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that, and it's not, and it's disgusting. And you see it in mainstream media when you have MPs going on and demonising Muslims time and time again and not being called out for it. Farage does it on a daily basis. Why is he not being punished for that?
Yeah.
Like, it's disgusting. And George has been a long-standing friend of the Muslim community for decades, and we as a party completely stand with him with that mantle. We want to really support him with that.
Well, because of corrupt government after corrupt government invading all Muslim countries, and then all of a sudden you're supposed to accept Islamophobia as well. So no, straight to prison for me. Yeah, enough.
Okay, so what we're going to be seeing is we're going to see a lot of.
Well, look at this. I supported Palestine on my Facebook.
Mm.
Okay, this is about a place, not about faith, but a place. But
Okay.
they're majority Muslim. Right?
Yeah, so in terms
So
of party,
Palestine.
we're going to see a lot
So,
of pressure being put
I'll
on.
tell you what
of
happened.
course,
I'll tell you what happened. I supported Palestine. The next day, someone from the social services called up. Oh, we had an anonymous call from an anonymous number, and they said your children are being underfed. So what? And all of that after each other. And I couldn't help but think, well, hang on, you know, there must be a reason. My neighbours are lovely, they love my kids to bits. So what's going on there?
And what are your thoughts on the Prevent programme being misused?
It should be for all faiths. If you're doing extremism, there's extremism everywhere.
So do you guys feel that it should be dismantled, the current Prevent programme?
Yes, it has to be. If you're going to go for extremism, it has to be in every single sector.
Yeah.
Not just aiming a magnifying glass on Islam. No. There's everywhere you find problems.
Just look at Nigel Farage. Let's be honest, he's an extremist in himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not outrageous to say that we should be able to look at racism on any form and go, that's wrong.
Yeah.
But I don't know why as a society we're really struggling with that. And it usually does come down from what people are hearing in the media, what they're hearing prominent figures saying. And if they are going around saying these things, they have to be punished. Racism is wrong of any form.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What's your stance on the media? Because the biggest obstacle to change in the UK is a stranglehold of the media.
Well, you can see that with
But
George
by
not being
certain
invited.
groups.
Yeah, yeah, you
Right,
can see
and
that.
again, I'll be called out and saying that I'm this or that, but if you look at the ownership of all the major media outlets, right, there's an incredible bias. Where is the Monopolies Commission in doing its job in all these areas? You know, so what's the Workers' Party's view on, getting the change?
Yeah,
You've got to change it. You can't just say
that's-
have policies for new
Yeah.
stuff because you've still got the problem.
there has to be a free and fair media, full stop, and it has to be regulated properly. And you've seen that with these leadership debates. George Galloway hasn't been invited to one.
Yeah, that's
Why?
undemocratic.
Yeah, it's completely undemocratic. It's ridiculous. You've got the Reform Party. They've got a representative on every TV channel that you watch now. They had one MP, and they only had him because he left the Conservatives. We actually had an elected official, an elected leader, and yet he's not invited.
I think we've got more councillors as well, haven't we?
I think it's the same.
It's the same, is it?
Same.
I thought we had 2 more actually.
I'm not too sure. Maybe, but
Sure
yeah,
we do.
yeah, but yeah, we need to crack down on that.
But
Definitely.
yeah, biasness of the media has to change. It has to stop. You can see that people are trying that. You've got Double Down News, various independent news networks that are out there that do report good, positive, unbiased, genuine news. The only way you can really do anything about this is to vote for a completely different government and a completely different party that will listen to you, that will support you, and will address these issues. And that party, I believe, is George Galloway's Workers' Party. But it's your choice.
No, definitely. Have you got any more questions?
Yeah, you were asked the question.
She's asking if your party won, would you be supporting the Muslim kids to pray on Fridays at the schools? Because some schools are stopping them from praying. And
Yeah,
they
but
said,
that highlights the Islamophobia that's going on in the country. Yeah, of course we back that. That's just, it's like such a simple thing that affects so many people by turning your back on that and trying to change these things. You have to support
I
these
used to
children.
go to a church school. We used to spend the Monday morning in church. So yeah.
Exactly.
anywhere to worship God,
Yeah.
don't mind, just leave people to worship, leave
That's
kids
it.
Exactly.
to
It's
pray
not harming
in
anyone,
any
yeah.
form.
Yeah.
Exactly.
One more question. As I said, the housing is really an issue. We have one of these ladies who's attending today. The lady. Yeah, Hanan. She's got a disabled son
Yeah.
who really needs a hoist, a wheelchair, but yet he has to share the room with his brother. It's a little room where the hoist is not going inside the room. So mom or dad, they have to carry him. He's quite, choppy. She ended with a back pain. And the dad, he can't work full time because he has to pump her. If there is anything that you can do for her, because
Can I do the same thing? I offered the
yeah, she's got low carter. She's got low carter for a medical reason, but she's not priority.
Let me take your numbers.
Yeah.
So we can talk about the issue, and then I can write a full email with both examples in the same email.
Yeah.
And then we put both MPs.
Yeah, definitely.
And I put George, I put James, as many people on this email.
Sorry, one more, different topic.
Yeah.
So a few years ago, I was in a swimming pool, went to the swimming area. There's men walking around naked while there's other children in there.
There's what, sorry?
There's men walking around naked while there's other children in there. But it's legal and it's allowed. This is what I said. Everywhere it goes, it's allowed.
Here.
Yes, UK, in swimming pools and the changing rooms. So yeah, there might be a sign, please wear your clothes, but there's nothing to police or stop
No,
it.
it should be separate. No.
This has happened a few times. It's come to a point where my daughter used to go swimming 2 years ago,
Yeah.
and I had to stop and come back because there's 2 guys getting changed in front of everyone.
Yeah, that's
And I told them, I was about to have a fight with them, I told them to put their clothes on, because my daughters didn't get changed. But there's nothing about it now. I've done something like you, I put my savings, my money into something which I'm trying to roll out. Now I want to put this into schools all over Brent. Now when I've been having meetings with people in Brent that are interested in this product, it's a safeguarding product for sexual children. Now they said, I'm sorry, but our budget has been taken away from us. And it has been used to build things like canopies for the school and stuff like this.
Can I ask what the product is?
I'll give you some details.
Yeah,
about the
is that
product.
alright?
Yeah. So it allows you to have a shower
Yeah,
while your body is covered. There's no product out there like that.
yeah.
And it's what all kids from all faiths, from everyone. So they need it, there's a big requirement. If you look at all the top safeguarding, Student UK, One Life, all of them, I've researched all of them. there is a dire need for this. Even back when they've been doing questionnaires and including people, they want it.
It should be separate areas anyway. Now, I'm a mum of two as well, and I have a young daughter and a son. So for me, when they grow up and I'm busy with the kids and they want to go to the toilet,
Yeah.
I don't want to know that when she's going to the ladies' toilet, there's a man going after
Yeah.
because it's mixed
Yeah.
toilets.
But-
I don't agree with it.
Yes.
And our party policy, separate areas.
Yeah, but even with communal showers, there's communal showers everywhere. So how are they going to have a shower without other people, even their kids? And now the kids look at them and do whatever
It
because
has to be, I believe it has to be separate.
it
but I
has to
ha-
be separate.
yeah.
But I can understand that there may be an issue in the budget of
Yeah.
separatising everything, but this will cover everything on the basis. But then again, they don't want to invest back in the community because people like me and you who put our money into it,
Yeah.
what are we going to get out? Because at the end of the day, we want best for the community, but no one's helping us out. What do we do?
I don't know. I have to see a product. I have to see how it's
Well,
working.
I'll give you a presentation. Everything is.
Yeah.
I'll show everything to you.
And also, see how the schools, did the schools actually use this product?
They will use that. It'll be for schools because it's European standard.
Has anyone used the product
Yeah.
yet? So let me talk to them and how they find it,
Okay,
and then
that's fine.
yeah, let's go from there.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fine.
I have one question. I live in Stonebridge, and it's regarding housing.
Yeah.
We have 52 families live in the same block, and we have an issue with the rent. This is like a £2,000 a month. In front of us, there's other block that is cheaper, and I don't understand the reason.
Is this social housing?
It's a social housing.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah,
have-
but housing association though,
It's
yeah?
a housing association.
Yeah, which shows the corruption that's going on in Brent Council, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And it has to be cracked down on.
But
This is
across
why the
the
council has
street-
no money. Is because
Across
it's,
the street, they pay less.
yeah.
And we same area, same postcode, same everything. We work I work full time, and still it's £2,000. I'm not able to pay because
Yeah.
my earning and the rent is not balanced.
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous.
And
yeah.
that is the reason is because mental health is rising. The reason is of that.
Yeah,
We're
of course.
trying very hard and just to pay the rent.
Yeah.
Of course, that's gonna affect your mental health. Because
Yeah.
you've got the stress. You're not feeling comfortable
You're not.
to live in your own place.
Yeah.
You think, oh my God, I'm one rent away from being kicked out.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, there just has to be a crackdown on the people providing this social housing, because they are.
It's got to go back to
Yeah,
the council.
it has
to go back to the
Has
council.
to, yeah.
That's the answer.
Okay.
Private, these private housing associations,
Yeah.
I can give you a few examples after, but essentially they're from foreign countries a lot of the time. I mean,
Yeah.
I've got a great story I can give you of one from Holland,
Okay.
Dutch, of how it literally destroyed housing prices in an area by putting them through the roof. Because the government, when they did the Help to Buy recently,
Yes.
they only allowed certain housing associations or builders
Yeah.
to participate in the Help to Buy, which meant if that was the only builder in that area,
Yeah.
all the people that wanted the Help to Buy had to use that one, which meant they could do what they wanted with the prices, and they did. They took the right mickey. They doubled the prices of houses in the area, and they got away with it. It's corruption.
It is corruption,
Yes,
yeah.
it's ridiculous because the mental health is getting worse. And I have online business that mental health awareness.
Yeah.
I do that. The reason is all the issues coming from housing, either rent, either everything. And on top of that, food. On top of that, you have to pay the bills.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the reason. So what's the option we can do now? I don't know.
Vote George Galloway's Workers' Party so we can build 1 million new council homes, bring back the utilities in house. Because if you look at EDF, right, EDF is a French state-owned company.
Yeah.
Over here is private electricity. You are paying 58, I think, or 60% more than what you paid pre-pandemic. In France, it's in-house, owned by the government. They're only paying 4% more. It can be done. It should be done. And if you elect George Galloway, it will be done.
Yeah.
But what I'm going to say is, if we really want to stand a chance here, we're going to need all the help we can get. So that means that we need to rely on you to spread the word for us. We don't have long now, and we can't be everywhere. So what I'm going to ask is, if you feel like you can get these leaflets to your friends, your family, take a bundle and just give them to everybody you know. Because if you actually want to make a change here, we have to use the vote to do so. And I feel that we are the only party that actually will try and meet the needs of the people that live here. So if you feel like you can help, take a bundle, take as many as you want and give them to everybody you know. Yeah.
There is already media suppression on us.
Yeah, it's not
because
only
we stand up for you.
yeah, but it's not
So we
only the
need
needs.
your help, because the people we have at the moment, we have a few who are helping me, like James, like Hassan. They're coming every day to give leaflets, but that's not enough.
But Nadia, also, I think it's important that when we talk about helping the community, if you elect these two candidates, it's not just the community. Because if you vote an independent MP, he's independent. If he's elected, there's not going to form a government. If you all across the country vote George Galloway's candidates, he can form a government. And they can make real change, not just in your community, but across the area. And then if he's elected as Prime Minister, for argument's sake, Nadia and James can do their job without any hassle, without any argument, because the party stands for what they stand for and for what you want. That's why it's important to vote George Galloway. Your independent MP, as good as he is, can he form a government? No. Can he make change in the country? No. If he wants to change something in your area, as much as he wants it, he's got to fight the government. If the government is George Galloway, you don't fight the government. The government fights the enemy. They work for you.
Yeah.
Okay, if your party won, would you be helping charities? Because now I'm a charity worker. We never get a support from Brent. We never get any kind of fund from Brent. So we've been working for 3 years from this area, helping people.
May I kind of ask, do you receive any salary?
No.
So there's some charities that people do receive salaries. I've checked with
Yeah,
RSPCA and
we
Oxfam.
run out of funds, so
Yeah.
we're hoping Brent will help us,
Yeah.
but yet they haven't.
Just to answer this, it has to be on a case-by-case basis. I used to work in banking, and some of our biggest clients were charities who had millions and millions and millions of pounds in investment accounts. That's why I say it has to be a case-by-case basis. You have to look at the smaller charities, look after the charities that are actually trying to make a difference.
Yeah.
Because if you have a blanket rule for all charities, what's going to happen is you're going to have the big charities with all the millions, they're just going to get more and more and more, and again you're just going to have the same problem with the charities lower down. So yeah, we just have to look at that carefully.
Because the big charities and our businesses, the smaller charities are hands-on, face-to-face with the
That's
community.
our case really.
That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're a small charity where the other bigger ones, they want to
Yeah.
Yeah,
overtake
exactly,
us because of the number of people that
It's
we
the
bring.
business way of mind, to start a civilization, to grow, that's the problem. Yeah.
So I will vote for James and
Thank you.
Nadia.
this is mine. I'll take it off.
Yeah, take as many as you want. I've got 20,000 of them, so we've got plenty. So yeah, amazing.
Are there any more questions from anybody?
Yeah, Nadia, if you can help like an email or something. About invested credit, how it's gonna work out for the future.
What? For
The universal credit, yeah.
Well, back before it was the job seekers allowance, and then they changed it to this universal credit. But it depends on what the situation is. Is it disability? Is it what's going on?
Naima, you can speak to Hinda about that. Hinda's going to touch on that afterwards, about universal credit. I think the question she was asking was, are there going to be are you guys for any changes to the unit or any reforms to the universal credit
I'd love to completely reform the benefit system.
Yeah, it needs to be.
It's not in our manifesto, so I'll be very careful about how I structure what I'm going to say, but I think you can look at other countries. In France, for example, they have a system where they take your previous 24 months earning. If you've fallen out of work and fallen onto hard times, they pay you 60% of that salary on a rolling period. But then to stop people just living on that, it's a rolling 24-month period. So every month you're out of work, that reduces. So we need to look at things like this, be really
Civilised
intuitive,
system.
and yeah, exactly. We need to really reform it and update it because it's been the same for what? I don't know how long it's been the same for. Years, decades.
Yeah, and there's no point being on the JSA or the universal credit when it's so little that you're forced to go to the food banks anyway. They have
Yeah.
a civilized amount so people have good mental health. They're not stressed. So I said, right, I'm going to look for a job today. They're motivated. That's how I felt. You know, I lived in Holland for 7 years, and it was civilized because I worked, and when, okay, I left my job, at the end of it, they said, right, okay, you work for a year, you get a month's full salary, and the next month, half salary. So that gave me enough time, wiggle room, so I could cover the cost of my rent, utilities, and what have you, but also have the whole day to search for jobs, go for interviews, and also take that bit of break, so, you know, to rest from my last job.
But this is the thing, to fund these things, we need to take all our natural resources back under state ownership, so then we can use those profits and put them back where
And
it's
stop
needed.
funding wars.
Exactly, and stop funding
Just
wars.
allocate the tax money right. We were just talking about it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But just to clarify, in case you don't know, you can look this up. It's on the Parliament website. I looked it up at the end of March. £5.74 billion of weapons has gone to Israel from the UK since October the 7th. And they have no money for your local area. They have no money for your council. They have no money for the schools, the NHS, the police. But they have £5.74 billion for weapons and bombs to drop on Palestinians.
And now this person people
And that's not including the Ukrainian weaponry. Okay, that 2 billion was just signed off a month ago for that.
2.5.
2.5
I think
billion.
the
so.
aim is 71 billion from 20.
It's ridiculous.
I think the for Ukraine.
It's ridiculous. But we've got no money for our own country.
So why universal credit are stressing people, telling them they have to work minimum of 35 hours per week? I'm talking about a mother, single mothers with a younger kid.
Yeah, it's not possible. How are you going to do that? Take the child with you to work
Exactly.
now.
35 hours, that's mean I'm a mother of 5.
Yeah.
Means that I have to be most of the hours outside. Who's going to bring my kids?
Yeah.
Childcare. So you are willing to pay someone else a money to look after my children, and you pushing me to be outside the house. So why can't you give me that money to look after my own kids? Does it make any sense?
Yeah.
No.
You're losing money from one
They
end,
lose,
and then
yes.
you're getting a
They
little bit
ask
of
you
tax money from the other.
35,
Okay.
and the rent is off the roof, £2,000. A mother who is single mother working 35 hours,
Yeah, it's not good.
and maybe more than 1,000,
Yeah.
then she has to
Pay her to
contribute.
do a good job to be a mother, and then.
Yeah, she has to contribute towards the rent, towards the childcare.
Yeah.
So what's left for me? And I'm tired. I will be like 8 hours outside my house. So does the government really realize what they're doing to people?
They don't care. They don't care. They don't
They're
care.
paying someone else as well
So
to look after
if
my
the-
children.
It's to falsify figures. It's to falsify figures to force people into work so they can say, look, we're doing a good job. We've taken 1 million people off of benefits. What they're not telling the people is, yes, we took 1 million people and forced them into work, but now we're paying money to help with the rent because they can't afford it, and we're paying for their childcare. So actually, Mr. General Public, we've actually now spent more money than what we would have if we just left the person to bring up the child. It's falsifying figures.
Okay, so if my husband works full time, it's not enough what he's getting. So do I am eligible of the universal credit, or we have to work both of us?
I don't know.
Both.
Yeah, but
Both.
the one
Who's
thing,
gonna look after children?
full time.
so the one,
I'm leaving. I'm leaving.
If you are working less than 24 hours, both man and woman, they have to work. Both have to contribute. So they will ask for your missus to go and work.
yeah, the one thing we're looking to do as a party is one of our key manifesto pledges is increasing the minimum tax threshold from 12.5 to 21.5, 22.
21,500.
Which is going to make a huge difference to people, because people on below £21,500 should not be paying tax. That's not enough to live on.
And we're going to get that from taking the tax from the corporations that aren't paying and from the billionaires that aren't paying enough tax. So we're going to take the tax breaks away from the rich and the corporations. We're going to give it to you.
Yeah. Go on, sorry.
Yeah. To be honest, everything is becoming nowadays is a business.
Yeah.
Either in the schools, everything, because it's, the schools is academy nowadays.
To make money from.
Everything, yeah, it's money. It's a business. If you're and you party elected, what are you planning to put these schools? Because we're suffering, our kids are suffering to these schools.
Stop academization,
Yeah.
remove privatization of every school.
Especially for special needs kids. They have got, we have, special needs schools is really difficult when you're having, as far as we know. And some of the kids, they are overwhelmed from mainstream. They put mainstreams. And the mainstreams, they're not able to really do anything, bad things. They can able to learn, but they're overwhelmed. There's a lot of things coming through. And the housing is a problem because they don't have enough rooms.
If you put businesses in the education system, you ruin everything. The aim of the education system is to educate the child to become tomorrow's leaders, to become tomorrow's doctors, engineers, scientists, performing arts, not for them to break under such pressure from academization because of someone wanting to get rich. No.
The young kids, they're just suffering from mental health.
And even the
Millions of kids, they're suffering from mental health.
even
And they're ending up for mental health hospitals. Because of the costing for that business thing, the schools are busy. They don't care about this child. They don't care what they're suffering at. It's just, they're just calling the parent. Well, what are they doing? They just got detention, isolation. The whole day the child was isolated. What is he doing? He just needs help.
Yeah.
And they're not supposed to help instead of punishment. So they end up, most of the kids, they just end up mental health and they're causing with it. So what are we having that kind of problem? What will you sort out when you get elected?
Well,
is there any plan you
Stop the privatisation of all public sectors. This is where the problems are coming from. Social housing, it's all been privatised and we're spending too much money to private companies. Schools, exactly the same thing. And then we go on to the lack of funding. These are the solutions to these problems, and being actually governing local bodies properly, rather than allowing councils to send thousands and thousands of pounds a month to private companies all over the place, rather than actually helping people and supporting them. That's what we have to do.
Also the academizations. I would like to remove the academies and bring them under state control, because you go with state regulation. If that's not possible for some reason, God knows, I hope not, bring the academies under state regulation anyway. Regulate them so much so they have to pull right. They have to do things in the right way, like a state school.
How about the free school meal? Free school meal.
Free school meals, yeah, of course, children. Has to be free school
No,
meals.
it's only this year we are entitled for free school meals for private schools. The last academic year, I had to pay for my kids.
So Deacon, he brought it in.
Only this year.
He's only brought it in this, it's part of his election manifesto.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
But before that, if you have a children in primary or you have to pay. Yeah, you have to pay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
not
when
right.
you pay in per day £2 something for a visit pay for them to eat.
Yeah.
If they are three, you will end up 10, 30 pounds per week.
Yeah.
If they are in high school, it's more than that.
Yeah.
And we're still struggling and still paying every day. If my daughter runs out of her money, she won't be able to have a meal that day.
No, they deserve to eat free school meals.
She has to call me and say, Mom, top of my school, because she wants to eat. And you can't pack a lunch for her because she's in a she's in a high school.
Yeah.
Only this year they gave me that break from the primary. But the last few years I'm paying from my pocket. For 3 kids, for 2 kids, or whatever. Anybody who is over the year 2, they have to pay.
Thank Don Butler Barry Gardner's Deacon.
So they can at least for this year he give us that break.
Because
He
he's
only
been
did that
forced
so he
into
get
that
voted
position.
in.
Yeah.
Nobody really liked it.
So yeah, we did really actually, we did vote for him because of, at least I'm having a break from 3 kids in a primary and I'm focusing on my daughter who is in a high school. Next year I will have 2, so I have to pay around £20 per week for both.
I think the key thing you've got to realise is essentially privatisation is something that's been a poison
Yeah.
in this country. The utilities should never have been privatised. Schools with academies and that shouldn't be privatised. Councils should be councils, not privatised. Housing associations should be cut and limited and restricted because they're private companies and they're making too much money of your money, taxpayer money. Okay, we need to end the privatisation of the basic amenities that we need to live in order for us to have better services, better schools, free school meals. I remember them when I was a kid. I used to get free school meals. Okay, everyone did. Okay, all these things can be achieved if you elect the right political party that cares. And that party, I'm going to emphasise again, will be George Galloway's Workers' Party.
Yeah.
So the choice is yours, ladies and gentlemen.
For our kids to eat, George Galloway Party.
It's your choice.
Really, primary school, I'm
Private school,
shopping
that's
at
the main,
home, doing
that's the
shopping
worst
at home.
things that we get into, to be honest. Private school is horrible. It's horrible.
Yeah, but that's I think Sodexo runs it, doesn't it?
There's so many kids
Yeah.
even, they got excluded. They don't have a school that they can go to. They excluded many kids
From the
because of that kid. They have got needs and they're not having really diagnosis and they don't care about it. They're not looking at what is struggle for is, where is this thing come, how can they help? But they just targeting this child is having difficult for the school. They excluded. And that child was adding mental health to the hospitals, to be
Academy?
honest. And my own friend, it happened to her.
is it
Her own-
academy?
Academy, yes. Most of the kids are academy nowadays. Where can you go?
Nadia, quick question, Nadia. Do you think that both candidates, actually, this goes to both of you, do you think that bringing back in youth centres which have been destroyed and taken away by current councils and governments, and building the community centres, do you think that's something that you'll be looking at?
I'm for that, and I wanted to bring it up, but I forgot to. You see, you have to stop children from joining gangs because there's not enough money, so they see the gangs like a little brotherhood. They go, oh, let me get some money from here. There needs to be youth centres, places where they can go with their friends, play sports, meet other people, not forcing them down that route. When I was growing up, there were youth centres, there were places like that. I was in St Augustine's in Kilburn, and we had youth centres. And they were filled every time after school, people playing basketball, football, doing what they want. And also there was a place of information when kids were unsure, something was happening at home, somewhere to talk.
Yeah.
So that needs to be brought up back again, you know?
No, but if as an adult we're struggling, we have to pay for everything.
Yeah.
Even if my child wants entertainment that I have to pay, really, where do you think the money coming from? If my child asks me for something, the answer is no, I don't have it. So if they join the gang, I'm that close to join the gang. Me as an adult. So what would we blame a child? A child who has
It's like you step out the door, you have to pay money to breathe even now.
Yes, if they're pushing the adult to join them, they're pushing the adult to do something bad, let alone a child.
Do you know growing up it was all for free? Yeah.
Yeah, you said
This is how ridiculous it's got.
Even I remember swimming pools were free, weren't they? Do you remember the council swim? We used to have council swimming pools.
Yeah.
You'd go there for free as a child.
Now it's £30 per month per child.
Because it's
and only
privatised.
half an hour.
Because it's privatised. That's why privatisation.
So if you have more than 3, you can't afford. We can't afford. My kids, they can't. They won't, but they can't. I can't really.
The only power we have as people is our numbers compared to the CEOs, compared to those who own the shareholders, the board members, who are creating our lives a hell.
Then you
So
will see a councillor driving a good car, telling you going, they're not even talking to you, they're not going to acknowledge what you're going through. So how would you feel?
no, I wouldn't feel human. I would feel less than human. That's how I would feel.
Less than human.
Yeah. And that's that kind of arrogance. You have to throw that out the door, because at the end of the day, this person could be your neighbor. This person you could meet later on in life. You don't know who you're going to meet.
Then you will hear if the issue is a housing or things, you will hear, oh, who told you to have that number of kids?
Just ignore these type of people.
Even in a hospital.
For your own happiness.
In a hospital, when I had my 3rd child, oh, see you then, see you soon, see you next year.
Yeah, thank you, Hinda. So I'm going to leave you to run the rest of it. We're going to head out. James, I obviously need to go across.
Yeah, okay.
The road,
That's
so
fine.
we'll set up
Amazing.
over there,
Yeah, amazing.
Good. So yeah, thank you very much
No,
for coming out,
thank you.
everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you to the candidates.
And like I said, if you want to help out, please take a badge. Give them to everyone you know, please.